Hello, I'm your teacher George. Today I'll be educating you on present perfect tense. When to use it and how to use it. So, let's start about talking how to use it. Present simple tense, present perfect tense. It's the tense we form by using two things. The main thing is the auxiliary verb have or has and the past participle of the main verb. So, take a look at the examples. She has worked in that office for 6 years. Has, that's the auxiliary verb, and worked is the past participle. We form past participle by adding ed to the main verb. So, let me now explain you when to use have and when to use has. We use have with I, you, we, they, and we use has with he, she, and it. So, that's the basic form. Now, here are some more examples. Okay, she has played tennis before. He has worked for that company since June. I have already served their food. As you may see, we use auxiliary verb have, has, plus past participle, which we form by adding ed to the main verb. But there are also verbs that are irregular. They don't form past participle by adding ed to the end of the verb, but they have to be learned by heart. They're usually third column at the verb list. For example, I have already eaten breakfast. She has seen that movie before. We have dealt with customers for years. All right. Now let's talk about negatives. Negatives are when we don't do something, so the sentence is negative then. Negatives in past perfect tense are very easy to be formed. So we form negatives by adding not after have or has. For examples, she has not been to Australia. We have not been to Mexico. She, that's the subject of the sentence, have or has, and not plus past participle. This is how we form negatives. All right. Now, the next things are contractions. We usually in speak make contractions by adding two words together and we link them. For example, we could say I have, but we say, for example, I've. Or I have not becomes I haven't. And so on. Here are the examples. I have lived in Florida for 2 years. Or we can say I've lived in Florida for 2 years. Or I have not been to Australia becomes I haven't been to Australia. Very well. So now that we talked about the form of these words, let's now talk when we use it. We have several situations when we can use present perfect tense, but let's talk about main two. The first one is to use present perfect tense for past events. When something happened in the past and we don't know when it happened, or we don't care about when it happened, or we don't remember when it happened, we use present perfect tense. In the situation when it is known when the action happened, we would use past simple tense. So let's draw this difference. For example, present perfect here, past simple is here. All right. I've been to Australia. Okay, this sentence doesn't tell us when he went to Australia, but if we say I went to Australia 5 years ago, there is the exact time reference to the action of going to Australia, and that's why we used past simple tense. As I said, the main use of present perfect tense is for actions that happened in the past, for events in the past, but that we don't know the specific time of the event. For example, I've already eaten breakfast. When did it happen? We don't know. It may have happened somewhere in the morning or in the or before lunch, but we cannot tell. She's seen that movie before. I've been to Australia. When did it happen? We don't know. Alright, so if you want to make questions, you just have to put this little verb have or has at the beginning of sentence. And now, let's focus on this. Have you ever worked at a job you really loved? Or has she ever worked at a job she really hated? Have they ever played tennis? It's very easy to make questions in present perfect tense, so you just put the auxiliary verb have or has at the beginning of sentence. And the short answer could be yes, I have, or no, I haven't, or yes, she has, no, she hasn't. But let's draw the difference. If we talk about specific time in the past, we won't use present perfect tense. We would use past simple tense. And so look this sentence. When did he visit his grandparents? He visited them last week. So we know that this happened last week, that's why we used past simple tense. Or when did you supervise other people? I supervised other people 2 years ago. We usually use past simple with last week, last year, last month, 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago, etc. Or on Monday, in 1975, in June. So the time reference is clear when the action happened. The second usage of present perfect tense that I want to tell you today is for unfinished states. Something started in the past and is still ongoing. We use it with words since and for. I will now explain you when to use it. We use it with since when we want to focus on point in time. Let's look at this example. I worked at this job since last year. Since last year tells us that the action of working started in the past and that it is still ongoing. Or he's lived in Florida since March. They've been married since 1985. The second word is for. We use for if we want to focus on the length of time. Such as, I worked at this job for 1 year, he's lived in Florida for 9 months, or they've been married for a long time. If we want to ask question, we just have to use question word how long. How long have you lived in Florida? I've lived in Florida for 9 years, for example. And the last thing I want to tell you today is the typical time expressions for past simple tense and for present perfect tense, and to draw a difference by this. For example, the typical time expressions for past simple tense are yesterday, or last week, or 6 months ago, or in 1975 at 3 o'clock, etc. But the typical time expressions for the present perfect tense, because time of the action is unspecified, are like this: just, recently, ever, never, already, yet, since, for, so far, or how long. So, to put it in a nutshell, we use present perfect tense when we want to talk about some past events that are not, we don't have specified time in the past, or when we want to talk about unfinished states in the past. On the contrary, we use past simple when we want to talk about actions that finished in a definite time in the past. So that's the main difference. Thanks for joining me in this brief tutorial. The next class I will tell you about other usages of present perfect tense. And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.